Good morning, I'm Craig Negrelli. It's Friday, February 7th, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. A flurry of executive orders issued by President Trump to start his new term, some now facing lawsuits. How a judge is pausing a key deadline for federal employees who work remote to make a decision on whether they will take a buyout and leave. And as crews remove more wreckage from the Potomac River after the deadly plane and helicopter crash last week, it appears investigators are getting some answers. This morning, the new information about the Black Hawk helicopter involved.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
It's been just over 2 weeks since President Donald Trump took the oath of office, and already he has signed more than 50 executive orders aimed at reshaping the federal government. Now, many of them are facing legal pushback. Just yesterday, a federal judge temporarily blocked Trump's offer to buy out federal workers who have been told to return to work at the office, while court proceedings over whether it's legal play out. Originally, federal employees had until 11:59 last night to decide whether they were going to take the buyout offer. That deadline has now been extended to Monday, and it might be pushed back even further. The buyout would essentially allow federal workers to leave their jobs while getting paid with benefits through the end of September. Federal unions have strongly urged members not to accept the package, questioning not just the legality, but the Trump administration's ability to follow through on its promises. The White House says at least 40,000 federal employees have already opted into the deferred resignation program. And the American Federation of Government Employees, the largest U.S. government workers union, filed suit seeking in federal court to stop the shutdown of USAID, arguing the president lacks the authority to shut down an agency enshrined in congressional legislation. This after the Trump administration presented a plan yesterday to dramatically cut USAID staffing worldwide as part of its dismantling of the agency, leaving fewer than 300 workers out of thousands. The administration believes USAID is fraught with unnecessary spending on projects and causes that the American people do not even know about. Meantime, another lawsuit is brewing over the Treasury Department's decision to allow staffers from Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, access to the federal government's massive payment and collection system. A group consisting of retirees and union members say the move violates federal privacy laws because it gives DOGE access to the personal data stored in the system. Those challenging the Trump administration's decision want an order barring DOGE from accessing the data and requiring the return of any data that has already been harvested. Another executive order facing pushback is Trump's decision to end birthright citizenship in the United States. That's when a child is born in the U.S. and automatically becomes an American citizen regardless of the parent's nationality, or because at least one of the parents was a U.S. citizen at the time of the person's birth. A number of lawsuits are now on the books challenging the order. This week, federal judges in Maryland and Washington state issued nationwide preliminary injunctions blocking the order from taking effect. The Department of Justice has appealed the Washington decision. In addition, a pair of federal judges have temporarily blocked a federal aid funding freeze directed by the Trump administration in response to his executive orders. And 2 judges blocked the transfer of 3 transgender women prisoners to a male prison after a Trump executive order affecting transgender inmates. It says the Federal Bureau of Prisons is now required to ensure that, quote, males are not detained in women's prisons. On the topic of executive orders, President Trump signed one yesterday imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court over investigations of Israel, a close U.S. ally. The ICC has issued an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who was at the White House this week, for alleged war crimes over his military response in Gaza after the Hamas terror attack on Israel in October of 2023. The attack left more than 1,200 Israelis dead and around 250 taken hostage in Gaza. Israel then unleashed a ground and air response, which the Hamas-run health ministry says has killed tens of thousands of Palestinians, including children. Neither the U.S. nor Israel is a member of or recognizes the court. The order says the U.S. will impose, quote, tangible and significant consequences on those responsible for the ICC's so-called transgressions. that could include blocking property and assets, as well as not allowing ICC officials, employees, and their families from entering the United States. The FBI has now given the Justice Department the names of employees who worked on cases related to the January 6th Capitol riot after a back and forth between Bureau leaders who sought to protect agents and staff identities and the Department of Justice, now under a new administration. The FBI complied by providing the names through a classified system to protect employees from being publicly identified. That's what Acting Director Brian Driscoll told employees in an email yesterday. Earlier this week, the Bureau withheld the names of thousands of workers and instead identified them based on employee ID numbers, job titles, and their role in the January 6th investigations. Several FBI employees and the agency's union sued the Justice Department, asking a judge to make sure the names are not released outside of the DOJ, saying they fear for their safety should their identities be made public. This morning, the search continues in Alaska for a Cessna aircraft carrying 10 people that went missing Thursday afternoon. Alaska state troopers say the plane, operated by Bering Air, was headed from Unalakleet to Nome, both cities in western Alaska separated by the Norton Sound Inlet. Crews are now conducting ground and air searches as weather and visibility permits to try to find the missing aircraft. The plane's disappearance comes as investigations continue in two recent deadly U.S. aviation incidents. A medical transport plane crashed in Philadelphia last Friday, killing the 6 people on board and another person on the ground. Last Wednesday, a passenger plane and an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided midair, killing 67 people near Washington, D.C. Workers pulled the wreckage of the Black Hawk helicopter involved in last week's midair collision from the Potomac River yesterday. Crews also removed additional parts of the American Airlines plane, most of which was pulled from the river earlier in the week. The National Transportation Safety Board, which is working to pinpoint the cause of the crash, says it is still looking for the right engine and the tail rotor from the helicopter. After a closed-door briefing at the NTSB and Federal Aviation Administration yesterday, Texas Senator Ted Cruz told reporters the helicopter was flying with its safety system turned off. Cruz chairs the Senate Commerce Committee, which oversees the airline industry. He said senators were told the helicopter had its automatic dependent surveillance broadcast system turned off. The system provides detailed information to track airplane locations. Military aircraft are allowed to fly with that system off. However, since it was a training flight involved in the crash, Cruz said, quote, "Unless there was a compelling national security reason for turning it off, that does not seem justified," end quote. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy told reporters investigators had not confirmed whether the helicopter was even equipped with that technology. Finally this morning, it's Super Bowl weekend. Come Sunday, millions of Americans will gather with friends, family members, and neighbors to watch the biggest NFL game of the year, along with all the commercials and the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. As for Super Bowl 59 itself, the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs and star quarterback Patrick Mahomes will be going for their third straight Super Bowl against the NFL's Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley, and the NFC champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Kickoff is around 6:30 Eastern in New Orleans. And for those who want to make it an all-day event, here's some cute programming that will warm your heart. The annual Puppy Bowl is back. It's a made-for-TV 3-hour event. It's a miniature football game played by dogs on a 20 by 30-foot field. The pups, between 3 and 6 months old, actually score touchdowns when they cross the goal line with a toy in their mouth. The goal, of course, is to encourage pet adoption. This year's Puppy Bowl, pitting Team Rough versus Team Fluff, will feature 142 rescue puppies from 80 shelters and 40 states. You could say the Super Bowl festivities getting all of us through the dog days of winter. We hope you enjoy Super Bowl Sunday, and don't forget to wear your team's colors. Hint, hint. Those are your unbiased updates for Friday. We'll see you back here on Monday. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great weekend.